Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael, and we're excited you joined us for this adventure.
So today, I'm really excited about our guest because she is probably the furthest from us when it comes to guests that we've ever had. And I think that's pretty awesome. Just in the fact that, if you think about it, the connection that we can make from so far away is phenomenal. And so I'm just really grateful for that. So everyone, I know you are at the edge of your seats, but our guest today is Lisa Hylton. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, we're super, super excited. And even just to let our wonderful adventurous family know how I met Lisa. We are in some of the same, at the very beginning, we are in the same women's groups. And I really love that because there's not enough women in real estate. And so to be able to meet other powerhouse women who are really passionate, who love being entrepreneurs, who just love rocking life, that's really, really exciting. And we are now in the same mastermind, which I also truly love being in that with you. And so it's just really cool that we could finally get you on because I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. You guys have taken the real estate space by storm, so definitely everybody knows you guys, for sure. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate that. But this is all about you today.
Yeah.
You're awesome. And that's why you're on this podcast. So, but I'm sure all the listeners are out there okay, Susie mentioned at the very beginning, the furthest connection, okay, where is Lisa? Where are you guys? So just to put it in perspective for listeners, so Lisa's all the way in LA and we are in Cambridge, England. So I don't know how many miles that is, probably 8,000 something. But
probably, yes.
quite a few, because that's 4,000 to Tulsa. And I'm assuming probably maybe another, well, it's not, maybe another 2,000.
Probably another couple thousand.
Yeah. So maybe 6,000 or something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But Lisa, would you mind sharing with our adventurous family, a little bit about your background and why you started investing in real estate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I am originally from the Cayman Islands, which is a British overseas territory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And my father was a contractor. He built 14 apartment units when I was a child. And by the time I got to middle school, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And by the time I got to college, he passed away. But because he made those initial investments of building those apartments that we still have today, that enabled me and my two younger siblings to still go through school and then eventually go off to college. So that's my early touches with real estate. That's how I got to experience it in terms of cleaning these apartments when they turn and, picking up rent and selling quarters because we had a laundromat and all that stuff. So by the time I got to my parents were all about going to school, getting a good education. They were not about real estate and all that stuff. They fell into it, but they didn't communicate okay, this is what I want. This is the vision I see for the future. This is what I want you guys to do. The vision they saw was go to school, make sure you get a really good job, and make really good money. And that's what I focused on doing. And that's what all my siblings focused on doing, is going off to college, getting a good degree. And I did that. And then I came home, and this was in 2003-ish, 2006. That's where it was. And shortly after that, I bought my first place in Grand Cayman, a 2-bedroom, 2.5 townhouse. I bought it because I loved it. There were no bigger pockets back then. And it was really tiny. And I walked into this place, saw it, fell in love, and was yep, I'm buying it. And I bought it. And then quickly I got an education for the next 6 years owning my own real estate, because a year after the first year, it broke even. A year after owning the property, I ended up moving from Cayman to Boston to work. But because I didn't have enough, I didn't buy the property properly. I couldn't afford to hire property management. So I was an out of country landlord. And my mom at the time was like, you know what? I have my hands full with my stuff. I don't have no time for that stuff. You're just going to need to take care of it. So over that 5 year, like 5 to 6 year period of owning it, I lived in Boston for 4 years. I moved out to LA. After I got to LA, I got an email one morning and it was for a bill for over $1,000. The AC company, the AC had broken down. My tenant called who I used to service it on a routine basis because Cayman's hot. So you have to constantly service your AC. They called them, they sent out a bill for over $1,000. And I said, okay, I'm making no money. And now I'm getting $1,000 bills. Yeah. This has got to go. This has got to go. So I called the same girl who, the agent who I bought the property from. I said, hey, listen, I'm ready to be out. And she helped me to sell and I sold it. And this now was like 2014, 2015, somewhere there, because I've now been living in LA. And I said, no more real estate. No more. I'm done. I'm done. No more. And I say the universe has a sense of humor because a year later, I ended up leaving PwC. I was working for an accounting firm for 10 years. I ended up leaving them to go take a job as a controller on private equity real estate funds. And 6 months in, I said, oh my God, people are making money investing in real estate. I need to know what the heck you're doing. And clearly I had no clue. Clearly I had no clue. And that's how I got, started, reading books, learning about bigger pockets, thinking about buying a duplex here in LA. This was back in 2017. Duplexes were $1 million, 20 years of deferred maintenance. So you can imagine what the prices are now, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later. From that to turnkeys. And then I just couldn't pull the trigger on these turnkeys that were in Alabama, Detroit, and all these places. And then I said, you know what, let me take a break from all this stuff. So I took a break, and it was on that break, I met someone who was a syndicator. And I said, this is interesting. Like, this is like what I do at work, but only thing for regular people. And I was like, wow, I didn't know this was possible. And that changed my whole trajectory. And that's how I am here today, pretty much. So, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, no, I love that it was like no real estate ever again. And then just like the private equity firm, you're like, wait a second, I can do this. You know what I am curious about though? Like what was the initial thought to maybe go into turnkey? Because you did not like that single family home experience. And then somehow you're like, somebody's pulling me closer to it again. Was it like out of comfort because you'd done it before, or where did it?
Yes. Okay. Out of comfort. It's like what I knew. I'll never forget. I want to say maybe before I found out about syndications, I remember going out on a lunch with some of my coworkers and the auditors. It was like the end of the audit season. And I was like, yeah, man, does anyone know about like how to invest in self-storage? You see all these big self-storage units, and everyone was like, no, like a REIT. That's it. Like nothing else. And I was like,
I love this. Like the look on your face is like, oh, okay.
And then a year or so later, I found out about syndication and I realized, oh no, you really can invest in those things. You just need to know, you need to be around the right people and be in the right communities of people. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I feel like a lot of people who are in like private equity and like invested in the stock market and things like that, they're like so blind to like that is like the only investment, right? Especially when you're taught growing up, like invest in the stock market, pay somebody to manage your money and then you do your own taxes, when it's the opposite, right? You have to pay somebody to do taxes, you need to invest your own money, right? So like, but like a lot of people are blind to any of the other opportunities out there. Like, oh, I'm just going to give my money blindly to somebody who's going to manage it, and I think it's going to the stock market because that's safe, right? They think it's safe, but then of course 2008 happens, and then the beginning of COVID happens too, and you see it's very volatile. It's just funny to me. Like, I feel like real estate investors who invest in syndications are very, very savvy investors, because like, not only do you know the world of stock market, you're like, okay, I had to get my money out of that casino and put it in some more tangible assets.
Right.
And then they become very aware and they're very savvy investors. So yeah, and it's just getting around the right people, like you mentioned, and knowing which investments are out there.
100%.
So how did you like get with this first syndicator? Because you're at, like certain people who are like REITs. So like, it's all, how did you not get sucked into that, but then you finally met a syndicator? Because I think for us, it was initially pretty difficult, especially doing it online, which sounds weird, right? So many people are like, online is easy, but that's all that we had. So we're like, it feels just as scary. So like, how did you start new conversations?
Yeah, I just sort of fell into it. It was the fall, I can't remember which year, 2019, 2018, I think. I was doing this program called Landmark here in Los Angeles, which is a personal development program. And funnily, a friend of mine had been encouraging me to do it since I lived in Boston. So this one had been now like around 6 years at this point. She would always sort of say, hey, you should do this program. And I finally looked into it now living in LA, and I found out that the building was like 2 buildings down from me here.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and like when that happens in LA, it means like a lot of things are aligned. This is traffic town, and like anywhere you need to go, like it's like an hour and all this other craziness. So I was like, oh my goodness, this must be meant to be. And I went, and that's how I met Monique Hom, the real estate investor goddesses. She was a participant at the Landmark. And I didn't know she was into real estate or anything. We were in the program, and, like it just so happened that we ended up being in everything together, even though we weren't like, we didn't know each other. So we were like all in the same, like the large group, and then there was like another breakout group, and then there was another breakout group from that. And it just so happened that I was the leader for this third breakout group. It was like a call time every Saturday for like 3 months or 2 months. And it just so happened that she was on my call time. And that's how like we started to get to know each other. And then in the end, this was like 2, 3, 4 months later, one of the other ladies, there was about 6 of us in the group, and one of the other ladies was like, hey, we should all exchange business cards to stay in touch. And we're like, okay. And then when I got Monique's business card, I saw she was a real estate investor. And I said, oh my God, like, like what's going on here? So I was like, yeah, I want to learn more. And she was like, yeah, give me a call. And I had her card in my bag, and I forgot about it. And I took, I want to say 2 or 3 months later, I took a staycation here in LA, and I was cleaning out my bag and I saw her card, and I said, oh my God, I still haven't called her.
Yeah.
And that's when I finally called her and like got like caught up in everything. Yeah, because she just knows so many people and has done so many things. So like I just learned so much from being in her community and just being around all the women that, I met through that program, and then continuing to meet more and more people. And it's just been a gigantic snowball effect. Like that's where my show started in her program, because like once I discovered that I liked real estate syndications, it was like, okay, well, I took this other program that sort of gave me an insight into like podcasting and YouTube and blogging and articles and all this stuff. And I said, wow, I really like podcasting a lot, So this journey has been one of like exploration. It's definitely an adventure.
Yeah.
And the adventure continues. I tell you, this year, 2021 has been, it has been an amazing adventure. Lots of highs, lots of lows, but yeah.
So like what makes you love syndications, and like what do you hope to do with them?
Yes. So what I love about syndications is like, it's more connected to the vision that I see. Like I want to be able to create fund entities that enable investors to gain access to commercial real estate projects. Right now, most projects are set up where, an investor will invest with one syndicator for their project, and their project might be one or maybe two different properties. So what I see for my future is like being able to leverage what I have learned for the last 14 and a half years in corporate America, auditing funds for 10 years, being a controller on them for 4.5 years, like knowing how to set them up, manage them, take care of them, and then being able to work with really good operators to then be able to provide opportunities to people like myself who want to continue. Like there's like people can still go directly to different operators and say, you know what, I really like this one. I want to double down and put tons more. But some people might say, you know what, I like the diversification of like being in an entity that has, more than one investment. And for me, I'm not interested in really doing blind funds right now, maybe, in the future, but, like being able to, because of like the way in which I had to learn my role as an entrepreneur, like how I naturally build wealth. We all naturally build wealth in different ways. And for me, like it's a lot about relationships. And through these relationships, the deals automatically come. And, you'll have other entrepreneurs that are really good at like broker relations and like asset management and like, deep dive on underwriting of the deals. Whereas for me, I feel like my superpower is being able to like build relationships with people and then be able to sort of connect like the opportunities together that I think make sense, as well as the people together that makes sense. Like being able to see, oh yeah, this person wants this. Oh yeah, I remember someone who said that they wanted X, Y, and Z. Let me connect them together. So that's what I feel like my fund entities are seeking to do as I seek to create them, is being able to like learn more about my investor base and what their needs are. And being able to say, hey, you know what, here's an opportunity that gives you access to 2 deals in 2 different markets with 2 really good, really strong sponsors. Like I don't have anything bad to say about any of these people. They're like really good. They're delivering. And, being able to build my ability to raise in that space and being able to work with really good people. So yeah, that's sort of what I see for myself.
No, and I love that. And there's like, I have some things to point out. Oh, okay, cool. So like the first one, because you'll see a lot of people who just like will invest with any operator who has like a really good social media presence, just because that's all that they see. And obviously social media just gives us a really good presence in general. So like what do you look for in like good operators? Because I think that's really difficult to find, but I think it's really important to investors to like understand like, hey, this is what a good operator can bring.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness. So I've had to I learned so much this year, working on this business full time. I learned so much about people's operators' capacity to provide information, transparency, and communication. And so some of the things I have standards for myself in my business. I like to build relationships with operators at least 3 to 6 months. So get to know them, get to understand their properties. So does this mean that I move a little bit slower? Yes. But when I talk to investors who have saved $50,000 and they're like, Lisa, do you know this person? Like, how do I answer that? Like, when you don't have any relationship with this person, like you just don't, you can't, so you have to say other things. So for me, I have had to realize, okay, I need to build the relationships, get to know them. So I actively look for people. Like if I see deals and stuff like that, I'm always out there, like building relationships, getting proactive, talking to different operators, asking them about their portfolio. So that's the next thing. So I'll ask them, hey, like, how are your assets doing? And some people, they will provide me with summaries of their assets, what their projected returns are going to be, how they actually how are they actually return performing right now.
Mhm.
So like can't necessarily do for like the entire year if they've just bought properties this year, but like say next year, the year after, they're going to get more data and they have that data and they can provide it. This is something that is very prevalent when if you are to seek institutional capital. Oh, 1 second. My connection is unstable, so hope it don't go away.
You're okay.
1 second.
We're good.
Okay. But yeah, if you're seeking institutional capital, these are things that you're going to need to get, like as an operator, these are things that operators are going to need to get underneath their belt if they want that institutional capital, because those institutions are looking for your physical track record. They want to see how your deals, how you projected, how they actually performed, and some will dive deeper even into business plans and different asset classes and how they're performing as well. So that's the second thing that I'm looking at. I go out there as much as I can. I'll try to go and visit people and get to know them so I can meet them in person. I trust my intuition.
Yes.
And sometimes, yeah, like I just trust my intuition. I ask for higher guidance because like this, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. So like sometimes you just have to ask, hey, like show me that this is the right people, because like you could check people's underwriting, but at the end of the day, like how they asset manage, that's what's going to determine the returns. And that's every day. And like that part, you're really trusting that they're going to we'll all be in a position. One of the beautiful things about this space is that as long as we all keep doing the things that we are doing, so buying, and performing on these assets, in the next couple of months to couple of years, you'll have a really great network of people that you have worked with for the past 5 years. So you know them and that they've gone full cycle on many deals, and so then it becomes the world becomes a lot smaller and easier to buy deals and raise capital and all that stuff. So it's just a matter of continuing to keep showing up and just being there and providing good service is what I would say.
No, and I really love that. I mean, for a variety of reasons, right? Like the whole relationship part is pretty huge, because we have gotten this question before, but I see it just even on calls right away, right? Like people will be like, oh, is there a chance for us to ever work together? I'm like, I don't know. I've known you for 20 minutes, I don't know what to say right now. But like the fact that you want to build relationships is phenomenal, because if two people can take down a deal just because of who they have, in their pipeline, but they haven't established a relationship yet. Like if they don't actually vibe the way they're supposed to, then asset management completely changes. And that changes everything that then has to do with a business plan. You don't ever want to go into meetings feeling uncomfortable. You don't ever want to be in a space where operators have not created really great relationships. So no, I really love that you hone on that, because when you hone on the relationships of the operators that you work with, and even the operators that you get to know, you then want to get to know your investors better. And that's phenomenal within in itself, because then you can really help them in a whole different manner. And that's really what it's about too. How can we impact all of these people? And when you've created those relationships with the operators, you already impact the investors that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it takes time. That part takes time. Yeah. But it's beautiful. I think that the longer I say to people all the time that the longer you stick around in the business, you meet all the players. And if you don't know someone, you'll eventually meet someone who knows them and have worked with them in some capacity over the time that they've been building their business. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. This is really cool that you had the opportunity to be an operator or a controller rather for a private equity fund or a private equity company rather. And I mean, what a better person or a better experience that you had being able to now manage these funds, like that is like the perfect background in order to then transition to this full time, which is that's just really cool. And it's incredible experience and incredible background that you have there. Is there specific, operators that you're looking for that, are specific deal types? Or are you kind of just anything commercial, or how does that work?
So getting to know them, and so that's right now, that's my focus, multifamily. So getting to know them, building relationships, learning about their, process, due diligence, and investing to the extent that like I have some of, different accounts that I can do that through. I will, like, for instance, my retirement accounts, I will seek to invest with them, get that exposure and opportunity. And then I also like other asset classes. So I do like self-storage, mobile home parks, and industrial mainly. So those ones I do have a few offers, or because I sort of invested. Mobile home parks and self-storage is still something that's ongoing. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I even love how you're interested in the variety, because I mean, even for you, because you get to know these operators well, it's really like if you understand the operators and you understand what you're getting yourself into, then you can really help investors that way, even for the investors who want to be able to be diverse, because a lot of people do want diversification. And so it's phenomenal that you have that interest, because if something were to ever happen, you're like, no, I've been talking about these, I understand them. I've learned about them. I know what I'm getting into, and I know what we're going to all get into together.
Right.
So that's great.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm really excited about it. It's a process though, it's a journey. So yeah.
Always.
So Lisa, thank you so much for your time thus far. Before we end the show, we have 4 adventurous questions we ask all of our guests. So the first question we have for you, Lisa, is where is one place you wish to travel to and why?
Yeah. So Hawaii is big on my list, primarily because I live so close to it out here in LA, right? It's apparently 6-hour flight from Los Angeles. So it's big on my list because it's close. And I've heard it's beautiful, and I'm originally from the Caribbean. So I heard that it's also like island living. So it's just high on my list of places to visit, some of these Hawaiian islands.
Yeah, no, they're beautiful. So that's a great one.
Yeah.
So the second question is, what is the number one thing on your bucket list, and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
Wow. I think my number one thing on my bucket list is, I think it's really building a life, like designing my life. So it's ongoing bucket list item.
I love it.
But for me, I see real estate, being able to invest, build this business in the real estate space as an awesome opportunity to sort of help me to design the life that I truly want for myself.
No,
love it.
I do too.
That's great. So the third question, Lisa, is what is one piece of advice you have for someone who wants to start passively investing in real estate?
Yeah, I think that, wow, one piece of advice, I would say, gosh, I don't know. I can't give one. I think it's sort of mixed. I think education and networking, getting educated. There's so many really great books out there. The Hands-Off Investor comes to mind. That Bigger Pockets book comes to mind as the first one. If you're thinking about passively investing, I think that that's an awesome book to get a hold of and read, and just get a good sense of the landscape. And then next is to get to know people. It's just so much. It's definitely a relationship business when it comes to passively investing in real estate. And through those relationships unlock opportunities, and they also provide you, as you build more and more relationships, you learn more, and you just learn what's out there, and it helps you as an investor to make even better decisions for your capital.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I liked that. So the fourth and final question is, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
I would say I would want to create something that helps people to learn about building businesses earlier in
Mm,
their careers and in their life, um, along with regular academic school. Because I feel that it's something that isn't really taught,
yeah.
and it's a whole different mindset, skill set, and way of creating life. When you decide to take the path of an entrepreneur, and or a business owner. So I feel that you learn a lot through this journey, and I feel that there could be more, like, there are a lot of people that are probably early on, like, shepherd into like these careers that for safety and stability. And if they had the chance to take these kinds of risks
Mhm.
earlier in their journey, it could enable us to unlock a lot of ideas that could help, the world in a variety of different ways, because then people would be able to work together with each other to create these kinds of opportunities that could be beneficial for us all, humankind in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what I would say is something that, looking back at like what I think I would want, and like what I think even other people who probably look to me are thinking, wow, like how do you do that? A lot of it is like, you just making a decision to try something, and it's a lot of experimenting. So yeah.
No, and I love that answer, because even when I think back I don't know, I think it was middle school. I'm pretty sure I was in 8th grade. They're like, oh, you can take classes to like learn more about what you want to do. And it was like industrial, which was a lot of soldering, and that was not exciting. Or it was like home ec, right? I had to take that baby home for the weekend. And I'm like, I am in 8th grade. Like, I don't want to solder, and I'm definitely not taking babies home. Like the baby came home, I unplugged it. Like that's what happened. But like, you're right though. It's literally like it's almost, I mean, the schools try to streamline it for you. It's a whole different conversation, but I love that answer, because it is so true. Like if people learned about entrepreneurship, or even had permission just to be a little more creative, I think that would
Mhm.
go a long, long ways.
And one thing I'll also add is that, um, I wish that like the school systems encouraged people to really think about, like, really tap into what they're good at.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the other thing, is you have a lot of people that are trying to fit square pegs into round holes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you, I read I think it's a quote. I don't know who it's by, but it's by someone. And it says that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you'll forever think that the fish is stupid. But like if you just put the fish in water, the fish would be just freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So like that's the thing. Like, and that's what has enabled me to get where I am today, is because I had to figure that out over these last couple of months, that hey, like who am I? Like how do I naturally show up in the world, and like how can I best use what I'm naturally good at to then just partner with other people who are naturally good at what they're doing
Yeah.
to build a business. And I think that is lost in corporate America many times, because you're hired to do a job and they just need you to perform that duty sometimes. Other times there, depending on the type of job, the company that you work for, there's probably the ability to sort of create your own path. But by and large, people are just sort of placed into these roles. But like once you start to build a business and entrepreneurship, you realize that, wow, hold on, you're going to need to build a team. And in order to build a team, you need to learn about yourself
Yes.
and like who you are, in order for you to then get the right people on your bus and to partner with the right people as well.
No, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, because it's so true. And so even I wish this could go on, but like could you please share with the listeners the best way that they can get in touch with you, like not only in real estate, but like even for what you were just talking about? Because I mean, I encourage anybody to reach out to Michael and I, because we've obviously had that feeling, and so have you. And so it's so cool to be able to even help people like get out of that place.
Yeah, totally, totally. So one-stop shop for me, which is lisahylton.com.
I love it.
So on there, you can find my podcast, you can find my blogs. If you want to get a hold of me, if you sign up at the back to invest, like we can get on a call. We can talk more about this. We can also talk about investing to the extent that you want to. But also on my front page is a free guide on a beginner's guide on real estate syndication. So for people who are thinking, oh, you know what, like how did this whole process begin for me to get started? There's a freebie right there on the front of my website. So just lisahylton.com, one-stop shop for everything.
No, I love it. And those will be in the show notes. So
For
make
sure.
sure you check that out. And when you do reach out to her, make sure to say you heard her on the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor podcast, and she will make sure to have that conversation with you.
100%.
As Lisa Hylton, Hylton.
Mhm.
So
That's right.
Definitely be in the show notes, but if you're Googling it now, it's not an I, it's Y.
Yeah, exactly. I always tell people, Lisa Hylton, just like the hotel, only thing with a Y.
No, I love it.
Love it.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. It's truly been a pleasure. And when I'm in Los Angeles in January, we have to meet up.
Of course. It's going to be awesome. Oh, goodness.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Until next time, explore more, adventure awaits.
Woo!